Hi, it's Andy.
Hi, it's Dave.
Hi, it's Kirk.
Welcome to the ADK channel, and today we are talking about a review we've done of the new EP by the band Break Them, and the EP is No One Left. Kirk, you're going to give us a bit more information about the band, but before we kind of get to that and a bit more detail, we're going to just get straight into what we thought about this EP. Of course, we go in alphabetical order, so Andy, you get to lead us in with your thoughts about this particular track or EP.
Okay. This has came our way because I have been corresponding with the vocalist Tom Amos when he was in his previous band. So that's how we got hold of the sort of advanced copy and asked to do a review. I mean, the theme of this is obviously anger and aggression from the opening second. Well, after the intro, sorry, you know, when the first track proper kicks in, it's anger from the band musically and vocally. I mean, Dave, you'll like the opening sort of track because it's got an intro. Sample from I'm guessing a World War II film, which I can't identify. I probably should have seen it, but I don't think I have. But rather than it being a standalone track, it actually leads straight into the first.
You're stealing my thunder. You're stealing my thunder, Andy.
All right. But yeah, I mean, it's a violent vocal attack on racist and racism as a whole. Very, very fast, but it's got a slow, chuggy outro. Like the match, is slower, very much like the Tom's previous band Vendetta. In fact, I might be wrong, but I think he may have recruited one of their guitarists to join him in this project. Burn the Bridge, I think, again lyrically is again very, very negative towards possible friendship breaking down. I'm not sure. Perhaps we'll find out in due course. Still I Drown is track number 4. I mean, this EP has got everything you want from a hardcore release. It ticks all the boxes. It's got gang vocals. It's got the breakdowns. It's got sort of personal lyrics that are from the heart. And Off My Chest is another speedy one with gang vocals. I mean, overall, this is my sort of thing. I mean, I've only recently sort of got into hardcore, especially the sort of UK scene. But this is a very good example of it, and I thought it was a great debut release from a pretty new band.
Okay, so over to me for my thoughts. So as soon as the track kicked in, even with just that kind of intro sample, called 100 Scalps, straight away it was making me think of 90s hardcore from bands like Biohazard, kind of mixed in with a little bit of 80s Anthrax. I was kind of getting, that spoken word bit that you got with all the Nazi bit. I was getting like the spoken word bit of Madhouse by Anthrax is what was going through my head listening to that. You're right. As soon as it then kicked into the next song, I was like, thank God they hadn't put that as a single track on an EP, because I would have lost my shit and gone nuts, because I just can't stand that. So I was so happy they did that. To be honest, No One Left was the only real standout track for me on the EP. As far as of any significant interest for me, that may have been when because Like the Match came in and probably has one of the most awful drum sounds I've ever heard. I thought the toms sounded, not his playing, the engineering and the mixing sounded awful. They had no clarity. They were just rumbling. There was nothing to them to give them any definition. The snare is okay when everything else is playing, but the snare's got no real impact at all. It's quite a thin sounding snare. And the kick on one of the later songs, you can get the same sort of problem. I think it was on Burn the Bridge. You hear these double kicks and there's no click to them. So they are just fat, but they've got no definition. And I really didn't like that. I just was so annoyed that the engineer or whoever mixed it, if it's self-produced, well, that's something they've decided. But for me, that could have sounded so much better. When we got to Burn the Bridge, it kind of was like I was kind of waiting for when there was going to be a clean intro track, because there's always some sort of obligatory kind of change of mood track in there, so that kind of kicked in. I liked the fact that they almost felt like they wanted to go down like a Doom route, which I really liked that bit, and then they just kind of went into a chuggy, slightly more up-tempo bit, and that kind of lost my interest. So there was not... I guess in summary, because rather than doing all the tracks by track, I was like, if you connect with the message of the songs and the anger and the topic that they're talking about, I think you'll really love this. If you listen to this from a musical point of view, it's just there's nothing really there for me. I've heard a lot of hardcore bands, and most of them I've heard are better in my opinion. And that might be being a bit harsh and brutal today, but I'm judging it on the fact that that's what I got from it. I think, well, Still I Drown reminded me of Green Jelly, that Three Little Pigs band. There's a track and it sounds very much like Green Jelly, that riff, but it's a lot of just downward chugging on E, and I was just like, yeah, okay, there's not really, it's oi metal, it's kind of, that's what it is, oi metal, a bit of hardcore.
It is very simplistic riffing.
It is. It just didn't do anything for me. I'm not saying it's bad technically. It's just not really that interesting. I found for me. But then the only real hardcore I listen to is I do listen to Hatebreed. I do listen to Biohazard. That's about it. A lot of the other ones like Madball I never got into. Wasn't really my sort of thing. So I'm not a big hardcore fan. Kirk, yourself.
Yeah, I'll pick up from what you said there, Dave. Not as critical as you, but you are right. The music, especially the guitar riffs, really serve the lyrics and the vocal lines, don't they?
Yeah.
They're secondary importance. So I think it's important now to say this is a band from Peterborough in Cambridgeshire, southeast England. It is hardcore. I was unfortunate enough to live in Peterborough for 8 years of my life, between 2012 and 2013. That place is a shithole. And it also became a social experiment for the European Union. It had the highest levels of immigration from Eastern Europe that any town or city in England has experienced, especially since we opened the borders in 2004 to the eastern countries. So that is a city where the identity is in flux. I understand why they have a song that's talking about racial tension. It's very clear on No One Left that they are on the side of Antifa when it comes to this. And let's be honest, are you going to criticize someone for being anti-racist? Of course not. In an ideal world, we want everybody to live harmoniously. That song, I really enjoyed it. So you're right, that comes in, doesn't it, from that intro, 100 Scalps. Does that sample the like southern drawl of some kind of redneck sergeant? I don't know if it's World War II. And if I was thinking Vietnam, maybe I've got that film Full Metal Jacket in my head. I know they're not sampling him. That sets the scene, I agree. Yeah, it is a bit like Biohazard. Like the Match does stand out for me. That song, the currency of that is Payback in Blood, isn't it? That's really a song against all people that have doubted you or tormented you or have said you're going to amount to nothing. And they're not holding back. They're basically saying, yeah, we'll turn up, we'll challenge you to a fight, you know, or if it's an individual, I'm happy to beat the shit out of you. And you do get that in hardcore, don't you? I didn't really hear much of the punk element to this, which is a good thing. I prefer the tough guy hardcore, you know, that develops in the 1990s and which is now basically quite technical form of groove metal, isn't it? Hardcore with the beatdowns. This isn't. This it doesn't quite have the best of either world, does it? I think there's only really track 4 where you would say Still I Drown, which has that a bit of that madball element to it, you know, the attitude. Mm-hmm. But yeah, the riffs are not quite sharp enough, are they, on this EP to really appeal to somebody who's got more advanced tastes in technical music, especially in the worlds of metal. However, what I will say is I've been reviewing a tech death album this morning and I've lost the will to live. Listened to 58 minutes of that. So this was actually refreshing. And I don't think it's a bad thing at times when you get something where the message is so clear and supreme in terms of the artistic identity of the music. I can easily listen to this 5 tracks, not because it's easy listening, but it's something that you can really empathize with most of it as well. Okay. And it's violent, so you can't really, I wouldn't say there's anything in this that's boring. You're right, Dave, to pick out some of the production flaws in there. I think the drummer could let himself go a bit. I think it's only really on that last song, Off My Chest, where he's really, you know, putting in these manic drum fills in hardcore music, and especially the music that's got punk foundations. The drums should be absolutely dominating some of these songs to keep that vibrancy, urgency, even ferocity. And they don't do it here, but I really like the bass playing, especially in that song Burn the Bridge. I don't know what effects pedal they're using towards the end, but that is grotty. It's grimy, it's dirty bass playing, and there's some real good chugging in that as well. So on the whole, I'm positive about this. You know, this, to me, if I was to judge it on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the highest, this is clearly a 7. We don't use that judgment here at ADK, obviously, but obviously we're going to go through that now, aren't we?
Yeah.
But yeah, I was quite impressed with this after 2 listens. And, you know, we'll always give a shout out, Andy, won't we? And certainly support English band,
Sure.
British band. So yeah, hardcore. Happy to review this music any day.
Okay, well, let's give the scoring. So anyone that hasn't seen this before, we'll just quickly go through that. So we have 4 categories, which is either a bill it, a trade it, a stream it, or a buy it. Andy, over to you. What's your scores on the doors?
If they were to produce this as a physical CD, then yes, I'd certainly buy it.
Fair enough.
I'd probably have to make do with streaming it, but that, for our rating,
The equivalent rating, yeah.
it'd be a buy it for me. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, for me, unfortunately, it's a trade it. There's just not enough on there to make me. I always have that rule, which is literally it's got to have 50% of the EP or more that I must enjoy for me to get to a stream it level. And unfortunately, there just wasn't enough of it for me. And as I said, it's not. Being a trade it means it's not a bad album. It's just not an album for me, so I would trade it to someone else. Kirk, over to you.
Yeah, it's a stream it. You know, I am going to make a reference point. We recently watched the Cambridgeshire band Own Your Life, and I reviewed their EP, and it's the best EP I've heard in certainly in the last year. It was a clear 9 out of 10 then. This isn't quite there. I'd like them to really expand their musical chops. I think hardcore now, you don't listen to a hardcore record and think, oh, it's not really about the musicianship, it's about the message. We let them off, you know, because of the punk origins. If you're going to be playing modern hardcore and you're stepping into that field where there are going to be metalheads listening to it,
Yeah.
you've got to step up as well in terms of your playing. But I enjoyed this. Yeah, stream it. I'll definitely come back to this.
Okay, well, that means for Break Them and No One Left from the channel, it's a stream it on level of balance between us, so it gets a stream it from ADK. Now, if you like this video, please do like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you on another video sometime very soon. Take care.